Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Tom Bushlack, and I am joined here by the wonderful and amazing Toni Stogdill.
Hi.
Thank you for being here, and looking forward to hearing your story and sharing your experience of all the work that you've done and the amazing transformation that you've had over the past few months. Or a few weeks, I guess, actually. Feels like months, but
7 weeks fast.
Yeah. So when I met Toni, she was just kind of invited to step into some leadership roles. And as you described it, they were roles that you maybe didn't feel totally like you were ready for, stepping up your game, your leadership a little bit. But yet you recognized like these were some really amazing opportunities. And you did, you said yes, and you stepped up. And that was kind of where we got introduced. And I came on your tribe talk that you have with Master Investors Tribe. So Toni is a realtor as well as the communications director for the Master Investors Tribe. And so why don't you take it from there about kind of what happened after we were introduced and what's gone down since then.
Okay, that's open-ended.
Yep, we'll just go with it.
I had recently taken over leadership of a Bible study through my office, and then I got invited by Kevin to take part in the MIT leadership aspect. Just really feeling like I wasn't prepared for this. Like what did I have really to offer in this space? Was I good enough for this space? And I knew that was my problem, because I knew, yeah, I was good enough. I have the skills, I have all the abilities, I have the knowledge. So it was a me problem, and I knew it. So then I met you, and there's a huge talk in Master Investors Tribe about coaches. And I knew that just, I've gone through 2 business coaches, would leave feeling really bad about myself after I had the coaching with them. I would leave just feeling kind of like crap. And I knew that wasn't how it was supposed to be. And when you were on Tribe Talk, you were on for 5 days. So we really, got to know you, got to blend with you, see your personality. And I really liked
Kevin's constant razzing.
Yeah.
Darren ignoring me while he texts.
He works. He does all that stuff. I don't think he ever quits working. So, but you come from a spiritual aspect, and for me to really be coached by somebody, you have to acknowledge the spiritual aspect. That's too big of a part of me, of who I am. So I jumped in, and I kind of took it as, I'm thinking along the lines of like a reporter. Like, I should do this phone call, and then I can tell people on Tribe Talk, what it was like to do the call. To
so that was the breakthrough call that you signed up for.
Yes.
With me after the first, I think it was right after the first day. Yeah.
Like I said, I had to try it.
Yeah, it was great.
So I signed up, and we clicked. You are very easy for me to talk to. You're very easy for me to relate to. I vetted you a little bit as well on how your aspects of spirituality and stuff were, to make sure that we were a fit on my side as well, which I felt like we were. So I dove in, and I went in this with the intention, and instead of having like a blanket, I just want to get better. I had the intention of, God made me to be amazing. And I'd already been studying all the stuff that the Bible says you are, like beloved, chosen, healed, whole. I knew all of this intellectually, but I didn't feel it. I wasn't living in that space. And that was the space I needed to get to be able to fulfill the leadership role that I felt like I was in.
Yeah.
So I went in with the intention of, if I took away all the crap, all the rejection, a divorce, if I took all of that away, God made me as a really cool being, and I deserve to find her and be her. And you'll hear me talk about Toni 2.0. That's a Kevin phrase that got put on me. But it's very true. And it's a version, when you download a new version of iPhone, it kicks out some of the stuff of the old. And that's really what the intention was finding me and getting rid of a lot of the emotional baggage that was holding me back. So I dove in head first.
So a couple of things to note there. I think it was cool that you kind of already had an intention going into it, but you were also kind of open to see where it could go. So that was helpful. And then, the conversation that we had is really mostly just me asking questions and trying to get clear on where you are and kind of what you're looking for. And I like how you said that. It felt like a good fit, because that's really the key. There are, if things aren't a good fit, I've had those calls where I'm like, yeah, I don't know that I can help you, and then I try to find somebody who can. But in your case, it was like, no, this is perfect. This feels aligned. Um, and there was something else that you said in there, about kind of that person, that Toni that God created you to be. And one of the things that we've explored in our work together is this idea that we all have this like inner core of innate goodness and wisdom, and it's in everybody. But for all of us, it's the human condition that life kind of piles junk on top of us. um,
We all have something.
yeah, baggage, whatever you want to call it. And so it sounded like you were able to kind of bring some of that into the work that we did, and even let go of some of it and find some healing from that. So, to the extent that you're comfortable sharing any of that, what was that process like for you?
It was multi-step, and I like what you said about being open, because I went into this, but I didn't know what was going to actually happen.
Sure.
Obviously, the primary piece is meditation, and then things that spring from there. And I had been sitting for about 15 minutes. I would have my brain go everywhere and not really understand how to make it calm down. And you kind of gave me the tools of working through what meditation actually is and making it an actual activity, like a beginning and an end with purpose in what I was trying to do, instead of just chasing thoughts around my head. So
but that, like, the method piece, I think, is often what people are missing, because it provides a container for the
right.
experience. And what was cool is you shared, I mean, you had already been sort of drawn into that experience of silence, and but maybe not exactly sure what to do with it. And so the method that we worked on was, again, it provided that container for it. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry,
So,
keep going.
no, you're fine. So my daughter's also here.
I'm so used to this now on our calls. Whenever you look up, I know your daughter is close by. One of them. Yeah.
So I think the first real breakthrough came with recognizing that I had allowed my happiness to be subjective to other places and other things. And I was constantly trying to fix relationships, fix finances, fix job, and you can't. And I was trying endlessly. And that was my first big aha, was my happiness is mine, and that's okay. And I sat down with a piece of paper, and nobody told me to do this. I sat down with a piece of paper and I went through where I was giving away my happiness to. And I wrote down I wrote down what my expectation was, like what I was trying to fix, and I forgave myself for it. And that was somewhat freeing just in that activity. And then around that same time was when I listened to one of the guided meditations that was all about giving permission to the person that you are, and permission to be that person. And that, since that was my intention going in, it was like validation. It was like this big light bulb of, I'm not just seeking something that's unknown. Like, people acknowledge there is this you that, I like how she put it, because she said it's the you that you are when you walk in the door and you close it. I like that vulnerable, no walls up, no labels, no expectations, that sigh you have when you put the keys down and the coat off or the shoes off, whatever. So that was a turning point. I think at that point, that was where I felt like I found me. And then from there, it became, like you say, the little bubbles on the pan of certain things would come up.
Mm-hmm.
And I really learned just how much different aspects of rejection had really just weighed on me. And I just had an experience of acknowledgement. And as I identified those and let them go, the weight that came off of me was tangible.
Mm.
It is tangible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't want that weight back.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So I treasure my time. I look forward to that time each day. I don't know what's going to happen day to day, but I trust it because everything that I've seen and experienced lines up with the stuff that you said was to expect. And what you talked about being open to other things. I didn't even know that I was going into it really wanting a closer relationship to God. Like that wasn't my intention coming in. It's something that I want all the time anyway, but it wasn't something that I was actively pursuing doing this. And it's something that's totally come out of it.
Mm. Cool. Yeah. I think too that there's, we talk about how intention is sort of the core of the practice of centering prayer and meditation. And people come into the practice with all kinds of different intentions. So like you actually had a pretty identified one, I think, compared to most, which was to sort of find that person that God had created you to be. But whatever it is, like maybe it's more based on like stress or, wanting to improve relationships or, let go of experiences from the past or resentments or things like that. And we find that gets us there and gets us started. But then the practice really starts peeling the onion. And then, like you said, things bubble up that you didn't even know were going to come. And it's kind of hard to explain that to somebody until they actually do the practice consistently, which, by the way, you've been amazing, right? You've been doing it twice a day since we started working together 7 weeks ago, and haven't missed a day, which is incredible. And I always tell people, there's that Woody Allen line of 80% of life is showing up. And I think that that's true for a lot of this work too, is like, if you're willing and ready to show up and do the practice, then all the stuff that we did in our coaching is like, it's container for that. It's language, it's understanding like what's happening at a spiritual level, at a psychological level, at a physical level. But really it's, you showing up and being open to where the Spirit is guiding you is the main thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think I made the statement about taking it seriously. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It was meant kind of in my, I'm a teacher. And in my head, I was picturing the kid, that can't sit still and he's up and he's going. And a lot of times you say, take it seriously and it helps them focus. And that was kind of how I saw myself. It was like, help me focus. Like I was doing this. I wasn't here to play. This was issues that I've had obviously for years, and I wasn't playing with them. Like I want past this. I don't want to keep talking about it. I don't want to keep reliving it and going from, okay, in 5 more years now I'll go and find another therapist and we'll do the same thing all over again. No, that was not, I want to figure it out and I wanted it done. And if it was going to happen, it was going to be God that did it, that it's not me. But I was definitely worthy of the positions that I was handed. So a lot of the things that was bogging me down are from people that aren't even in my life anymore. And I didn't want to give them that power anymore. Like they're not even around. They don't have any right to be holding me back from where I want to go. And I want all these great things. So they need to go and let me just rise up.
Yeah. So cool. I'm just realizing that you can't see this, but your friend Tracy is, she posted in there, Toni, you've made such amazing progress. And then exclamation marks and heart. So she's got your back and, you've been able to let go of some of the more of the past rejections that it sounds like, you took a little more personal, or kind of took on, right? Even though those people weren't around in your life anymore. And you mentioned at the beginning too, doing like working with other coaches and just kind of feeling worse. So I'm curious, what was that? What was different, or what was that experience like that made you feel worse? And how was this experience of our working together different?
Well, like I said, it was strict business. So if something didn't have the result that I was supposed to have, if it didn't play the way it was supposed to play in
Like
the
a
business
financial
world,
result or something? Yeah.
yeah, it's all about numbers and stuff. Then what could I do different? What did I do wrong? How am I supposed to change so that that never happens again? And that's not exactly the most building up, self-esteem kind of way to look at stuff. And business or no business, I couldn't handle being talked down to all the time by people that were supposed to be helping me.
Yeah.
And that was part of, the intention coming in is I'm done with being talked down to. I'm in leadership positions, and that's not a position that people are talking down to you. So how do I get that out of my mentality? How do I get that out of my decision making and projection as I'm on stage at MIT or leading 6-8 women on a Bible study? So
Well, it's interesting that you brought up the numbers, because and we use this assessment tool, right? The Centering for Wisdom assessment. And again, I agree. So I'm gonna say two paradoxical things here. Probably they're both true. One is, yeah, I agree that part of the way I approach leadership development is like the leader's primary job is the work on their self. And if you want to add in like the theological piece, it's God's work ultimately, that we're just getting ourselves out of the way for that work to happen by grace. And then the results, I think, come, when we align up that into our intention and then live out of that, eventually. But if you kind of measure, one of my coaches always said, compare equals despair. And as soon as we start comparing ourselves to a number, to somebody else, like we put ourselves in that space of I'm not good enough. So there's that. And at the same time, we do use this assessment tool to kind of see where you're starting and then where you go throughout the course of our time together. And I know that you had some pretty remarkable changes in that area of shame, which was one of the 4 quadrants that, which essentially is measuring, it's a self-assessment tool that you take, but it kind of measures your self-talk. Like, how are you judging yourself as not as good as other people? How are you feeling in relation to others like that? So can you talk a little bit about how that shifted?
I don't have the beginning number in front of me. I remember the end, but
I remember it went down by 42%. That part I remember. It was like 3.6 to 1.8 or something, or 1.9. Yeah.
1.8 was the bottom. 3.5, 3.6 was the beginning. I think that shows that I was coming in really with an intention, and that your assessment just happened to measure where I was going. Everything else I didn't really feel in my life was out of whack, but that one I felt was really out of whack. And I went in with that intention of finding myself, and all of that springs from how do I talk to myself? How do I feel about regrets and actions of the past? And when I started, regret was big.
Yeah. Regret
was big. And that did a lot of bad self-talk. That did a lot of not feeling worthy, all of that played into what put me here. And then doing the work and changing how I see myself, how I talk to myself, how the value level that I attach to myself alone, and I don't give that power away to other people anymore. All of that played into answering those same questions in a very different way.
Yeah. So, the numbers are fun just because it kind of gives you some feedback and like to track your progress. But I think even more importantly, how does that feel differently for you in your day-to-day life? You know, like, how are you showing up, Toni 2.0?
Right now, like I said, it's a tangible weight. I feel lighter. My heart feels less constricted, less stress. And then, like, the best thing I've got is the imagery of Disney World. Like,
Yeah.
when you walk in and everything is there and your senses are overwhelmed, you don't know which way to go because you want to see everything, you want to get to everything, the energy and excitement that's there, that's what I feel like now. And that's huge for me because for the last, I would say, 10 years, ever since my marriage fell apart, I think it's really, that's when the had to fix it hit. And I don't think that I ever really got out of it because, okay, the divorce was final, but then I'm still fixing finances and I'm still fixing job and I'm still fixing relationships. And it just became overwhelming on being buried. And I had somebody, right when I started attending the Bible study that I now lead, I had somebody ask me, Toni, do you ever rest?
Mm.
And that was eye-opening.
Mm.
That was where I left that day and I went to a creek by the house and I just sat and was like, wow. And I think that was the turning point. Like, that was my start of this journey.
Yeah.
That led to the dots to here, that now I feel like using the eat, pray, love allegory instead of the person at the beginning of the movie that is the overwhelmed and is the seeking and the lost, and the end part where she's getting things together and she's knows more what she wants. That's where I identify now. Yeah. I feel like I'm putting this stuff behind me. I'm not dealing with it anymore. It's over. I'm going to continue my practice. I'm going to enjoy and make whatever comes of MIT. I'm going to make it the best thing that we can do. And it's awesome to participate in that. That is an amazingly special experience that I know I am just blessed to be a part of. So that's really what I see and feel now, is genuinely happy for the first time in a long time, like innately happy, not expectant on, well, I'll be happy when I get this situation how I want it. Mm. That's not a part of it anymore.
Mm. I want you to take in your own words there and savor that, because that, I mean, that is, to feel present and happy in where you're at. That's such a huge blessing. And, that doesn't lessen any of your like drive or desire to like get engaged with MIT and do the work. But it's just like, I'm already whole and good. And now I can bring that, or you can bring that into what you're doing. And people are going to feel that. People already have commented to you on the change. And yeah, Stacy and Kevin, and certainly me and the other people in the group that we did the program with can all see it.
Well, I appreciate the comments that I've had, because I think it was you that said other people see it first. Mm-hmm. And I have had those comments, and that just confirms that I'm on the right track and that it's having the effects that I'm wanting it to have. And 2.0 is here, and 3.0 is, in the works for the next part. And, but it's a good feeling now. It's positive. It's not fearful. It's not lost. And like, I want to get rid of the word trying and should. Those two words should never be in English vocabulary. Trying makes me feel like I'm on a hamster wheel and it's never going to work. Yeah. And should is all the cultural or family, whatever intentions that you're supposed to take on. Yeah. And I just kind of am dropping all of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And one of the things that we've talked about and you've experienced is that when you drop all of that surface level narrative that we get so caught up in, and again, we all do it, right? It's not like you're a bad person if that happens. Like, we all have it. Yeah. You learn through the practice, the centering prayer and meditation practice, to recognize that chatter and let it go and not identify with it, then you get opened up to this whole other way of being that, like you said, you were born with it. It's there. We all experienced it when we were like came into the world. But quickly we all get crap piled on top of us. And so resting back into that space can be so powerful. And it really, it's hard to explain, but all the surface level things, the goals and the work and the relationships start coming from that deeper place, that changed being.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden things that were like really difficult or stressful, all of a sudden aren't that hard anymore because you're showing up as a different person.
And I do feel different.
Yeah. I also thought it was cool how you talked about, previous experiences or the with your divorce, like some of those really difficult experiences that we all have, get kind of lodged in our bodies and in our soul, our psyche, however you want to look at it. And then one of the things that we explored is how they get triggered by different events that come up. And so those tapes keep going over and over again of like, I'm going to be abandoned, or it's not safe to rest. It sounds like was a good one for you.
Yeah.
Which I've had that too. And there's something different that happens in the contemplative practice that's different from like therapy with a therapist or taking medications, which are all fine and good things, right? But it's somehow the practice gets at those things in a different way.
It is. It's a different.
Yeah. Curious how you've experienced that, or how you would describe that to somebody who maybe hasn't experienced it.
I think for me, there was, I'm not going to say the specific event, but there was an event that happened that really, to me now, I look back as just one really horrible thing that somebody did to me. Like, I think it was just really a crap move. But at the time, I was told, you're really not supposed to deal with it. You need to not hold it against that person, just kind of pat them on the back and let it go. And I wasn't allowed to ever really channel that because there was other stuff going on at the time that required my attention, and I never really got to deal with that. And I think that sat there for 17 years or so now. And one of those days sitting out, I had something the day before, and also another memory, a relationship that I miss come up. So I was kind of open to thoughts coming up during the meditation that just kind of come out of nowhere, and they do trigger an emotion. And the day before had been a kind of one. This one came up the next day and kind of blindsided me. I wasn't expecting it. So I think right there is that you don't know a bubble's going to come up from the pan kind of thing. You don't know. It's not like you necessarily are planning the thoughts that are going to come up in your head when you're doing this. But this event came up, and it's a big one. It's one that obviously still had emotion and things that carried with it. And I can't ever change it. It's a fact, and it happened in the past, but I don't want the emotional attachment to it anymore. And so this practice kind of allows those things to be acknowledged, to come up. If you feel emotion, you're not really supposed to react emotionally, but sometimes it's just there.
Or if you do, you don't resist it, right?
Yeah, you don't resist.
That's what gets so exhausting, is constantly trying to push those negative feelings down. Just wears us down.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was far enough in the practice where I wasn't, if it comes, it comes. And, I let that event play out in my head. I let the emotion be there. I let it be what it is. And then I surrendered it. And I let God do the rest from there. But it was very much a tangible beginning to end finish of, it started, I guess, a beginning to end event. It started, it had a finish. it might take more than once for it to fully be resolved, and that's okay. It doesn't feel like what it did, and it's not pushed down. I'm not feeling like I have to ignore it, deny it. I accept it, and I let go of the emotional attachment to it. And that's what I plan to do on anything else, that comes up kind of like that. And that's what I did with the people that I could say, have really impacted me on the rejection aspect, to take, those events and say, I'm done. I let it go. I surrender. I had forgiven them. I didn't hold anger, but it's that it's in you, and there's emotional ties to it, and it comes up every now and then, and it gives a bad taste in your mouth kind of stuff. And I'm like, I can't change my past. I can't change what happened, but I can keep it from influencing anymore. And that's really what I wanted out of all of this, was to let all the emotional crap not influence me going forward into these awesome events that are happening in my life that these people don't have any part of anyway. So just keep doing my practice, and if it comes up, surrender it to God. And I think that that's where, my relationship got that much closer to God, because I got it in a different way. It's all stuff that I knew scripturally, and I've done my prayers, and I do worship, and I do those things, but this made it more real beyond that. Like it's like I got the ticket to the inner circle. It's a little bit different.
I like that image of the inner circle.
God's inner circle. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what it felt like.
And yeah, you've awakened to the fact that that's where you and God have been all along, and you're showing up now to it in a different way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm letting him respond to me in a different way.
Yeah.
I'm letting it be different than I ever tried to make it be. It's different.
Yeah. Yeah, you've seen me do this before, but those things that come up that have like that energy attached to them, those memories or experiences. And then when you are doing the practice regularly, you're relaxing into the present moment. And then that stuff, because our ego's defense kind of shuts down for a while, we shut down the force field. That stuff in the body can come up. And then, but when we don't react to it, it's like we allow it to go. And I've been doing this, like they just, they go shooting out. Yeah, the energy gets let go of and healed. And that's what's left under it. It's like you said, the memory doesn't go away, and it's, but you don't have that same kind of like the feeling come up with it every time you remember it.
Mm-hmm. And you can read this stuff in books and have people tell you, but until you experience it, it doesn't necessarily make sense.
Yeah.
But I gave myself to that experience, and I put myself in it as completely as I could, and I embraced all of this, and boy, did it. It worked. It did what I wanted it to do and a whole lot more. And it's nothing that is stopping now. It's not stopping now.
Yeah, well, now you kind of opened you removed the force field, right? So the energy is just flowing, and it's like you said, it's like Disneyland. It could go anywhere at this point. But it's good stuff, and you are attuned to God's guidance and healing, and you're attuned to other people around you more, so you're able to kind of be in that energy.
And I have people around me now that one, understand it, and two, want to lift me up. They're not the ones that want to talk down to me. They don't want to hold me back. They want to, draw me more into the leadership, draw me more into this space. And that's awesome to be surrounding myself with people that see me that way and support me that way. That's
awesome. I should note real quick for anybody that's watching, if you want to submit a question, I can pose it to Toni. So go ahead, you can put that in the chat box. But I know you've talked a little bit about your work and with Kevin and Darren and other places. But we've also explored a little bit how your relationship with your teenage daughters has evolved. So putting you on the spot a little bit, to the extent you're comfortable sharing, how has engaging in this 7 weeks, affected and improved that?
Oh, just breaking old patterns, breaking old responses. Like, even if they expect to push the button, not giving them that reaction. So embracing what you taught as that space, the power between the stimulus and the reaction slash response.
Mm-hmm.
Not letting the buttons get pushed, not letting myself react. So taking that moment, identifying, okay, I'm in this little spot, and letting that spot, that space actually exist and be. And it might be me walking away, it might be me handling it different than I would have before, but I think I see improvement in a couple of areas, and so that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
They're my girls and I want the best for them, and we're just at that age of their independence, and that's where they want their independence, and I'm still mom, and I still see them at 5, and much more dependent. And so there's it's a both sides, kind of, the apron strings are having to give. And I think anybody that's got kids of that age, it's just its own challenge of, they're not empty nested, they're still here going to college, or I've got one that's a senior in high school, and they're not totally ready to be on their own, but they definitely don't still need to be watched over like they used to, and they want that independence. So it's just a setup almost for how many difficulties can we have.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to have memories now of strife and struggle. I want them to know I support them, but there also may need to be boundaries set, and I want to do it in healthy ways. And I think it's more calm here now, because even when I'm being triggered, I don't necessarily let that trigger happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That space of like recognizing what's coming up and like starting to tense down, but then relaxing into it, that's miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've talked about what a gift that is that you're giving them to kind of model that, and to allow them to have that space to explore, but also to stay there and say, if you fall down or need something, like, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
And they've embraced the meditation part. I've got one that likes, we've got a TV show that we always watch together, and she put it on pause for me to go do my meditation.
Oh, wow. That's
And
cool.
so I was like, I thought that was really neat and supportive. Yeah. And I didn't get the groan, or I didn't get, any kind of pushback. It was like, okay, go do your thing, come back in 20.
Wow. That's amazing. The next step would be for her to join you, I guess, right?
Working on that one.
Yeah. Baby steps.
Right.
Yeah. You don't want to freak them out too soon. Well, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you really wanted to kind of share about your experience of our work together?
I would say to anybody, try it. Do it. Call you, do it, jump in for the 7 weeks and let it rock your world. Allow it to rock your world, because you can go into it with a crappy attitude and not get anything out of it. That's also, that's also can happen. But that's far from what happened here. Mm. And we all have stories. We all have things that were buried, and aspects of abuse or narcissism, or, name it, whatever dysfunction you want. There's something in all of us, despite how great our parents tried, because I know I've tried with my kids.
They're all human.
I'm sure I'll get it.
We always joke they'll send us the therapy bill. Or they'll do centering prayer.
That's exactly.
And meditation.
That's awesome, though, that I have those resources now to give them. And I didn't have that 20 years ago. I wish that I would have known about this 20 years ago, and done the stuff now back then. So that's really what I would say is like my wrap up is, this is not isolated to me. It's not something that only happens to other people. I'm far from some kind of a once in a lifetime case study. I just happen to be, you just started doing this, so I'm just at the beginning.
Yeah, and you were the first one to say yes to the Facebook Live. Yeah.
So it's do it. Give the 7 weeks, and you are going to be, if you put yourself in it, you're going to be amazed at who you come out as.
Well, I appreciate the kind words and the endorsement. I did not plant you to say that.
Plan that. I am a fan. I am totally a fan at this point. Tracy can tell you that. She's followed along with this. She's a friend of mine in California that's known me for 10 years or more. And she has followed along with a lot of the spiritual and just life aspects of us. We've been together for it. And so she's been curious, and she's asked me, and she's followed along with this. And it's been neat to have somebody to really dialogue it out with, and to talk it out with, and not have it all just up in my head. Yeah. So thank you, Tracy, for just being there for me and participating kind of on the side of this, but seeing it really is real. And her support, being on today, she actually rearranged her work schedule to be able to listen awesome. and be a part of it here. But that's just the best thing that I could say to anybody out is to do it.
Well, I appreciate it. I was going to say something at the end about if anybody wants to get on one of these breakthrough calls with me, and again, it's, you can speak to it. It's not a pressure call. It's an exploratory call, and seeing whether it's a good fit. And so I put the link up in the chat box for anybody who might be interested, and it'll take you to a calendar page where you can sign up for a time that works for you, and then you just show up with an open mind, and next thing you know,
you're gonna be sitting here.
You 2.0 or whatever, 3.0. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's been just such a pleasure, this conversation, but also just working together and seeing the incredible way that you showed up, and the change that you have allowed to happen and to be so ready for. So thank you for just bringing your whole self and letting the practice and grace do the work. It's like I said to you the other day, it's just a joy to see this unfolding, and knowing that we will stay in touch to see where it goes next.
Mm-hmm. That's the most exciting part.
Yeah. So cool. All right. Well, I guess I already asked you last thoughts. Anything else before we sign off?
I just want to say thank you for having me on. Thank you for pouring into me. Thank you for sharing yourself with me. You've given me a life-changing gift.
Well, you're worth it. And there are others out there who are worth it. And we'll just keep connecting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really going to take that in. All right. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks to everybody who watched.
Bye.
Bye.